Part 156. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1551. When I came to the gate of the Temple of Faith, I saw a long queue at a glance. Among the crowd in line, some are ordinary practitioners who want to join the Temple of the Alliance of Light, so they came to test their faith level. There are also some priests from the Temple of the Alliance of Light, who come to check whether their faith level has been lowered. There are also some believers in the Temple of the Alliance of Light, upholding the supreme belief in the gods of light. They also came here to test a wave. Lord Duanmu, Master Nangong. Along the way, there were constant yells. It could be seen that, as the acting cardinal and cardinal of the Temple of the Alliance of Light, Duanmu Ding and Nangong Lei were very famous. Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong came to the Hall of Faith at the same time. Could it be that they all came to test the level of faith? He, what are you thinking? For beings of the level of Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong, the belief in the gods of light has long been at a high level. What needs to be tested? That's right, one of these two is the Archbishop in red, and the other is the acting cardinal. Tisk tisk tisk, there are not many people in the entire temple who have a higher status than them. Hey! I guess they should come to the Temple of Faith to inspect, and then see if there are any good seedlings, and then take them into the temple, or, they want to find a few temples for the priests to cultivate. Tisk, if this is the case, the possibility is great, interesting, really interesting. I think that's what it looks like. Then we have to perform well. If we are selected by these few, the future is limitless. Tisk, who doesn't know this truth? It is said that Hao Zhan, the third son of the pavilion master of Haoshan Pavilion, is also here today. Could it be that he is here for him? Well, it seems that there are really many possibilities. It is said that Hao Zhan, the third son of Haoshan Pavilion, was born close to the gods of light. When he was born, the holy light shone, the dragon and the phoenix are in harmony. Damn it, it seems like we have nothing to do. We just came to accompany the prince to study. Hey, I can't envy this kind of thing. I have a good father and a good talent. I have crossed to the quasi-sacred realm at a young age, and with my strong divinity, my future in the temple unlimited. That's right, the most important thing is that now that Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong are here, they might be trained by someone under his command. Jealousy. How many handfuls of jealousy? There were endless yells. Duanmu Ding and Nangong Lei came together, and the sensational effect was still there. At this moment, among the crowd, a young man with a crown like jade, sword-browed and star-eyed raised his head arrogantly, with a look of arrogance on his face. Hey, I know that I am very talented, but I didn't expect that the temple would pay so much attention to it. Even the Archbishop Nangong Hongai and the Deputy Cardinal Duanmu are here. I am really ashamed. The young man was dressed in a blue-red robe, and although he had an extremely modest expression on his mouth, that pretentious look was too much of a draw. Congratulations, third son. The third son is worthy of being the most divine existence in Haoshan Pavilion. The third son has a phoenix crown like jade, the best among men. In the future, I hope that the third son can be promoted more in the temple. Third son. There was constant bragging, and the head of the blue-red robed youth Hao Zhan was raised even higher, and he could look at people with his chin. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1552. Brother Yun, why don't you speak? The blue-red robed youth Hao Zhan glanced around, and found that almost everyone around him praised him. Even if they didn't flatter him, they still had flattering smiles on their faces. As for the younger brother standing beside him, he was frowning from the beginning to the end, making his scalp tingle. Third brother, I don't think Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong came here for you. They should have specially led the boy in white behind them. Hao Yun took a heavy breath, and couldn't help narrowing his eyes quickly, looking very heavy. As soon as Hao Yun said that, everyone around began to criticize and laugh. As for the blue-red robed youth Hao Zhan, his complexion turned black. Isn't this blatantly slapping him in the face and not giving him face? How can you bear this? Brother Yun, don't talk if you don't understand, no one will think you are dumb. I have never seen the young man behind him. He is obviously not the young master of a powerful family in Qingtian Sanctuary. He, an ordinary person, do you think he can be treated like this by an archbishop in red and an acting cardinal? What? It's ridiculous. Hao Zhan, a young man in blue and red robe, spoke with a more contemptuous tone, and then held his head high. He has always been so confident that he felt that the archbishop in red and the acting cardinal came for him. Thinking this way in his heart, Hao Zhan, a young man in blue and red robe, rushed to meet him. Master Duanmuo, Lord Nangong, I am Hazan, the third son of the master of the Haoshan Pavilion. Hao Zhan stood in front with a smile on his face, blocking the way of Fang Fan and others. Duanmuo Ding and Nangong Lei hummed at the same time, without saying a word of nonsense. At this moment, Nangong Lei wanted Fang Fan to pass the faith level test and become a member of the Temple of the Alliance of Light. As for Duanmuo Ding, he was still thinking about how he should get out, how to completely dissociate himself from this matter. Hao Zhan, who was suddenly neglected, was not used to it. Seeing that Duanmuo Ding and Nangong Lei had gone far away, he thought to himself. Is it because they didn't hear themselves clearly? Yeah, it must be because my voice was too low and the crowd here was too noisy, so I couldn't hear clearly. It makes sense. After all, they came here just for me, so it's impossible for them to treat me so coldly. The blue-red robed youth Hao Zhan felt so in his heart, he rearranged his clothes and strode forward. Summarizing the previous lessons this time, he deliberately raised his voice by several decibels. Lord Duanmuo, Lord Nangong. I am Hao Zhan, the third son of the pavilion master of Haoshan Pavilion. A roar did attract the attention of Duanmuo Ding and Nangong Lei. Nangong Lei frowned slightly and didn't say much. And Duanmuo Ding is like a rooster whose feathers have blown up, with a grumpy expression on his face at the moment. Is the bishop deaf? Who told you to yell in the Hall of Faith? There are no rules. Go back and line up for me. There is no courtesy at all. Do you really think the temple is a place where you can do whatever you want? You want to go back to your Haoshan Pavilion. Looking back, I want to ask the owner of the Haoshan Pavilion, how did he raise his son? He has no education at all. Duanmuo Ding stared at him like a raging lion. He was in a critical moment of thinking just now, and he was suddenly interrupted, so naturally he couldn't be in a good mood. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1553. Hao Zhan, a young man in blue and red robe, stood on the spot, his body stiffened instantly, his lips trembled, and his body trembled unnaturally. The sense of fear in my heart gradually rose, and cold sweat fell down. He never thought that the acting cardinal would be so angry. By the way, didn't the acting cardinal come to see him specially? Hao Zhan muttered to his lips, suddenly feeling a little wronged. Normally, this shouldn't be the case. At first, I was full of hope, but now, I was scolded bloody. Fang Fan walked past Hao Zhan lightly, looked at this guy with a face of surprise, somehow felt that this guy had something wrong with his mind. Isn't it enough for normal people to say hello once? Even if there is something to do, there is nothing wrong with saying hello again, but it is not enough to just yell like this, right? It looks like a fool, or the kind with a very high level of fool. This, what's the situation? Hao Zhan, the third son of Haoshan Pavilion, was murdered by Mr. Duanmu. Who said just now that Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong came here because of this guy? The current situation is very obvious. It's clear that this guy is being self-indulgent. This is so f***ing, it's embarrassing. Who said it wasn't? It's so embarrassing. Who knows how it became like this? I almost burst out laughing. Brother, you are not alone. Damn, this is purely self-indulgent. Just because I am the son of the master of Haoshan Pavilion, I came to pretend to be coercive? But he didn't pay attention to him at all. Haoshan Pavilion is considered a big force in Qingtian Sanctuary, but in the eyes of the Light Alliance Temple, it is still far behind. It is not a level of existence at all. Okay. Who says it's not, now that Lord Duanmu and Nangong don't even pay attention to the son of the master of the Haoshan Pavilion, so who are they here for? So lost. I'm not going to leave today. I really want to see who the boss is. Could it be some big boss from the righteous divine sect? Shenzong of righteousness? Shit, that is the leader of Qingtian Sanctuary, the only quasi first rank power. The power is more than 10 times that of Haoshan Pavilion. It's a real hammer. It seems that he is the boss of Genki Shenzong. Hao Zhan, a young man in a blue and red robe, came back amidst sarcasm. His face was as dark as water, his hands were tightly clenched, and his eyes were full of fierce gleam. Shame. What a shame. What the hell is stretching out your own face for others to slap? The group of people who had complimented them all kept silent at the moment, and it was inappropriate to say anything now. Embarrassed. That's killing me. Disdain. This is also asking for a dead end. So choosing silence at this moment is a good way to protect yourself wisely. Third brother. Hao Yun looked at Hao Zhan, a young man in blue and red robe who was walking over in a panic, and called out immediately. You already knew, didn't you? Why don't you remind me? Don't pull me. Say. What the hell do you know? Also, what evil intentions are you hiding in doing this? I didn't realize before that you have so many twists and turns. Hao Yun. I really underestimated you before. The young man in the blue and red robe needs a vent at this moment, and the vocalized Hao Yun is obviously more suitable for venting. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1554. I reminded you. Hao Yun's face is innocent. He just said clearly that the acting cardinal and the archbishop in red are not here for you, but for the palace master Fang Fan behind them, but you just don't believe it, even still blindly confident. Now you are being slapped in the face. Blame me? Third brother, the boy in white standing next to Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong is called Fang Fan, and he is the lord of the Human Emperor's Hall. These two adults should have brought him here. Hao Yun shrugged, then reminded again. Hall Master of the Human Emperor's Hall? Human Emperor's Hall? What kind of power is this? I've never heard of it. Humph. He looks mediocre. How can he compare with me? There is no comparison at all. Don't talk nonsense. I can't let these two value me, an unknown little power. Hao Zhan, a young man in a blue and red robe, was full of disdain, and his arrogance was gradually expanding. Third brother, if you don't believe me, I can't help it. Hao Yun sighed lightly, unwilling to say any more unnecessary nonsense. What the hell, put on this pose for me. If it's really him, I'll crash my head and die in this temple of faith. Hao Zhan, a young man in a blue and red robe, proudly raised his chest. His overconfident attitude continued to show. In his opinion, even a peerless arrogance with invincible divinity like him is not qualified, a master of the palace of the emperor? Forget the hammer. Hao Yun opened his mouth, thousands of words converged into one sigh. You remember that the great guardian Wu Peng also had such a disdainful attitude back then, and then he died. Lord Duanmuo, Lord Nangong, what is the purpose of your visit? Walking from the Temple of Faith, a man in a blue robe walked over very respectfully. There are also quite strict requirements for clothing in the Temple of the Alliance of Light. Generally, the third-rank red-clothed archbishop wears a red robe, and the deputy third-rank acting red-clothed archbishop also wears a red robe, but the color is a little lighter. As for the second-rank cardinals, they wear purple robes, and the deputy second-rank cardinals generally wear purple robes. Those wearing blue robes like this are usually the fourth-rank archbishops of the Temple of the Alliance of Light, and they are on the same level as the previous Tang Hao. Bishop Guoan, take this Hall Master Fang Fan to test his faith level. Duan Muting stood aside with a dark face and said nothing. Nangong Lei stepped forward and said, a smile gradually appeared on his face. This. Guoan, the man in the blue robe, was stunned for a moment, with a hesitant look on his face. According to the rules, if he wanted to enter the Temple of Faith for inspection, he had to go through a lot of procedures. Of course, it is not without accidents. If there are two third-pin red-clothed archbishops and above to recommend together, those complicated procedures can be avoided. It was recommended by Cardinal Duanmu and myself. Seeing that the blue-robed man hesitated, Nangong Lei finally added. The blue-robed man Guoan couldn't help turning his gaze to Duan Muting again. Duan Muting's face was still so dark. Although the word was said reluctantly, it was powerful and showed its own meaning. As soon as this remark came out, the audience was shocked. This scene can be called magnificent. Just now everyone was still speculating for whom a vice-second-rank acting cardinal and a third-rank red-clothed archbishop came together for, but they didn't expect to have the answer so soon. Fang Fan was inconspicuous before, but now, he has become the focus. Divine system of the strongest card supplier in the end times, Doomsday strongest card supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1555. Who is he? He's so young, his bone age doesn't even seem to be 100, is he some evil genius? It's terrifying. It's not very clear, but since it can be jointly recommended by Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong, it must be a peerless arrogance of some super-powerful force. It's true, and it's still the kind of peerless arrogance who can't be seen in the world. Tisk, I guess this young man in white should be the proud son of the righteous divine section. I just don't know which one of the 7 peaks of the righteous divine sect he is. Interesting, indeed interesting. That's not right. Just now the archbishop in red in Nangong called this white-clothed boy Wai Fang Fan Palace Master. Palace Master? When did the righteousness sect have such a position? He, you don't know, there are many more. Make a fuss. Cough, actually, I heard that the owner of the Human Emperor's Hall in the Chentian Starfield is called Fang Fan, and the faction he belongs to seems to be called the Human Emperor's Hall. In just a few years, the Human Emperor's Hall has grown from a 9th rank force promoted to the 4th rank. I am from the Starfield next door to the Chentian Starfield, but I have heard of it. 4th rank power? Grass. Don't be ridiculous, okay. Do you think it's possible? Nonsense. If he belongs to the 4th rank power, I'll eat Xiang directly. Brother, don't taste so strong, it's disgusting enough. Laozi just likes this one. The focus is moving, countless eyes are focused, Fang Fan remains indifferent from beginning to end. Chen Tianyuan, the patriarch of the Chen Tian clan standing aside, was blushing, and subconsciously straightened his spine. This is his son-in-law. His son-in-law has a good reputation, and his father-in-law's face is also shining brightly. Tianhumeyer bit her red lips tightly, her beautiful eyes flickered with light. I knew you were extraordinary anywhere. You are always the focus. Tianhumeyer sighed softly. She thought she was also a genius, and she was once an unworldly genius who survived the Emperor's catastrophe, but compared with this one, she was not a star and a half behind. Master Fang Fan, please follow me. Guowen, the man in the blue robe, said to Fang Fan very respectfully, although he didn't know Fang Fan's identity very well, but since he could be escorted by two big men, could his status be normal? He is a fourth-rank archbishop, and he can pretend in front of ordinary clergy, but in front of Duan Muding and Nangong Lei, he still has to be cowardly. Fang Fan nodded, said sorry, and then followed the blue-robed man into the Hall of Faith. In the Temple of Faith, one can clearly feel a strong aura and power of faith. Needless to say, the level of divine veins here must be extremely high, but the Temple of Faith has its own special features, and the power of faith is concentrated, which is normal. In the main hall, small rooms are divided into small rooms at this moment. The size of the small rooms is not very large, about 3 to 5 square meters. At a glance, there are probably hundreds of such small rooms. The size of the temple is still very large. When he came here for the first time, Fang Fan felt very comfortable, perhaps because the concentration of these powers of faith was high enough, and he himself had the god of rage. Being in it is like coming to your own little world. The Temple of the Alliance of Light still has a certain foundation. The power of faith here is almost condensed into liquid. It is conceivable how many believers are supporting. Fang Fan took a breath and thought to himself. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1556. Hallmaster Fang Fan, you must have seen these small rooms. There is a lot of power of faith concentrated under these small rooms, so it is also called the faith pool. The process of detecting the level of belief is very simple. It is to enter the belief pool. The longer you can stay in it, the higher the level of belief. Generally speaking, if you can persist in it for an hour, even if you have a preliminary belief, you are also called a first-level believer. After that, every time you persist for an additional hour, your faith level will increase by 1 level. If you stay for 10 hours, that's the highest level of belief. It's also called a believer in God. However, this kind of situation is basically impossible to happen. For ordinary divine blessings, it is already very good to have a 6th-level belief and a 7th-level belief. The longer you stay in the faith pool, the greater the pressure will be brought by the power of faith's resurgence. I hope Lord Fang Fan will understand. If Palace Master Fang Fan feels that he can't hold on anymore, he must come out. Once the power of faith breaks through the sea of consciousness due to his deadly support, he may be useless. It's not like nothing like this has happened before. Guowen, the blue-robed man, spoke, and then explained all the relevant matters that should be paid attention to clearly. Fang Fan nodded, he naturally knew how to handle this. You just said that if you stay there for 10 hours, you are a 10th-level faith, and you are a believer in God. What if you stay in there for more than 10 hours? If you stay there for a day or two, how do you count? Fang Fan raised his head, a smile appeared on his face, his eyes became more and more pure. Guowen, the man in the blue robe, was stunned for a moment. He really didn't expect Fang Fan to ask such a question. At this time, laughter came from the surroundings. Ha ha ha, I can't help it, what is this guy thinking? Since the establishment of the Temple of the Light Alliance, there have not been many God believers with 10th-level beliefs. He is still delusional, a higher level of faith. Hey, newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. It is a miracle to be able to persist in the faith pool for 6 or 7 hours. As for the others, don't think too much about it. Tisk, how do you say that? There must be some kind of dream. What if it comes true? This is not a dream at all, and there is no possibility of realizing it. Even if he is the favored son of heaven that Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong are optimistic about, he can survive for 7 hours, and having a 7th level belief is already the best expectation. There was endless laughter. Fang Fan's expression remained the same. At this moment, Duanmu Ding, the acting cardinal of the Temple of the Alliance of Light standing aside, couldn't help showing some sarcasm on his face. Archbishop Nangong in red, this is the arrogance you insist on winning over to the Temple of the Alliance of Light. I see him. That whimsical appearance doesn't match the great gods of light at all, don't even be able to survive for an hour, and don't even have faith, then it's really a joke. Duanmu Ding said eccentrically, the feeling of being coerced is not so good. Is it? Lord Duanmu is also the recommender. If you really lose face at that time, it won't be like losing face to me alone. Nangong Lei shrugged his shoulders, his expression indifferent, and then his eyes focused on Fang Fan, and the smile on his face became more and more. Peerless Tianjiao is a little arrogant, shouldn't he? Divine system of the strongest card supplier in the end times, Doomsday strongest card supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1557. Snort. The Archbishop in red in Nangong is still as sharp-tongued as ever. However, according to our agreement, he must pass the faith assessment and reach a certain level before he can be absorbed into the Temple of the Alliance of Light. If you haven't passed the faith assessment, or if the level is too low, this bishop will not let this face down. Duanmu Ding raised his head proudly, and the gloomy expression on his face became more and more serious. If he could, he would have chosen to stay away from here long ago. This is natural. But Lord Duanmu, please wait and see. Hall Master Fang Fan will not let you down. Nangong Lei narrowed his eyes, and his face became more and more confident. Arrogance. Country bumpkin. I don't know where the bumpkin came from, but he is talking nonsense here. It's a shame to take the test at the same time as such a person. Standing in front of the faith pool, Hao Zhan, the third son of the pavilion master of Haoshan Pavilion, shouted angrily. Just such a country bumpkin who doesn't know anything can be jointly recommended by Lord Duanmu and Lord Nangong. And he, the dignified son of the Haoshan Pavilion master, a person with a divine nature, was treated with sneering words. This kind of anger gradually fermented in his heart, and it has already flourished. Hao Yun, the 37th son of Haoshan Pavilion master, shrugged and said nothing. He had a deep understanding of Fang Fan. Time. After experiencing those few blows, he seemed to have matured a lot suddenly. He no longer had any hatred for Fang Fan, but only fear and admiration. It's not normal for a lush young man to have some heroic complexes and idols. I don't want to go back to the Haoshan Pavilion. The pavilion master's father has too many sons, there is no point in staying any longer, maybe he will be slaughtered at any time. If you can stay in the Temple of the Alliance of Light, even the lowest level priests, that would be great. Hao Yun clenched his fist secretly, glanced at Fang Fan's position involuntarily, and then secretly cheered himself up. His hands gradually clenched into fists, and his eyes gradually became sharp and excited. This is what he fought for. Fang Fan looked at Guowen, the fourth-rank archbishop of the temple in front of him. This guy was trembling all the time, just avoiding answering his questions. Master Fang Fan, you'd better enter the pool of faith and feel it. It's impossible for you to really stay for more than 10 hours. Even if the Pope came personally, it would be very difficult to do. Guowen sighed with emotion, and his complexion became complicated. Confidence is a good thing, but too much self-confidence, it seems a bit stubborn. Things beyond their control. Just by you, do you want to stay for 10 hours? In terms of belief in the great gods of light, you are not worthy to lift Ben Shao's shoes. If I were you, I might as well slam my head against this pillar to save myself from embarrassing myself later. Just as Fang Fan was thinking, there was an unbridled roar, and Fang Fan turned his head subconsciously, only to see a young man in a blue-red robe standing there, looking extremely proud. This young man, Fang Fan, has met once before. It was the guy who was so narcissistic when he walked over just now. Fang Fan glanced at Hao Yun beside him again, and secretly smiled. These few should be people from Haoshan Pavilion. Divine system of the strongest card supplier in the end times, Doomsday strongest card supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1558. It would be understandable if Hao Yun called Fang Fan so loudly. After all, Fang Fan had captured him before, and even suppressed him horizontally. But this young man in the blue and red robe simply had a good perception of himself. Before he came to the Temple of the Alliance of Light, he didn't know his existence at all. It's ridiculous to talk nonsense here now. Where is the dog barking? It's really ugly. Fang Fan glanced silently and said coldly. Bastard! Who do you call a dog? How dare you be rude to me? Believe it or not, I abolished you. Hao Zhan, a young man in a blue and red robe, instantly looked like a lion with furry fur, bursting into flames. He was about to rush over, but at this moment he was firmly stopped by Hao Yun, who was beside him. Third brother, this is the Temple of Faith, do you want to die? Hao Yun roared, and the blue-red robe youth Hao Zhan's body froze immediately, and a trace of cold sweat could not help showing on his forehead. He was obviously frightened, and he really didn't care so much just now. After Hao finished roaring, he bowed his head respectfully to Fang Fan. Master Fang Fan, please don't blame me, my third brother didn't mean it, please understand, we didn't mean to trouble you, I always treat you I admire. As Hao Yun spoke, the smile on his face became more and more sincere. Fang Fan narrowed his eyes secretly, didn't say much, just smiled indifferently. He didn't expect this Hao Yun to turn sexual after being beaten several times. Fang Fan glanced at Hao Yun, then glanced at Hao Zhan, a young man in blue and red robe beside him. A slight smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth. You just said that you can crush me on the level of belief in the gods of light. Fang Fan began to gradually lay out and test. Humph. Of course. I am a person with divine nature. Hao Zhan, a young man in a blue and red robe, held his head high and his chest high, wanton and arrogant. In this regard, he is still very confident. Okay, how about we have a vigorous gambling fight? Anyway, we are going to enter the faith pool together. If I stay shorter than you and my faith level is lower than yours, I will lose you a 4-star holy sword. On the other hand, how about you give me 1,000,000 star cores? The corner of Fang Fan's mouth raised slightly. It would be great if he could take a break from his busy schedule and make a small fortune. Now he doesn't have many star cores in his pocket, still need to earn some money first. While speaking, Fang Fan revealed the 4-star holy sword. Generally, the price of a 1-star holy sword to a 3-star holy sword varies from tens of thousands of star cores to hundreds of thousands of star cores. But when it comes to the 4-star holy sword, it basically starts with $1 million, so Fang Fan's quotation is quite reasonable. 4-star holy sword. You actually have a 4-star holy sword. Hao Zhan, a young man in blue and red robes, had his eyes lit up, his face gradually showed greed, and he subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and the sound of breathing seemed very real. So, do you dare to bet? You talk so much, you don't even have 1,000,000 star cores. Fang Fan deliberately pretended to be contemptuous. The complexion of the blue-red robed youth suddenly turned red. To be honest, he really doesn't have so many star cores. I don't have many star cores, only 500,000, but I can use other treasures as collateral. Is it okay to mortgage 500,000 star cores for this bottle of elixir? The young man in the blue-red robe directly took out a bottle of elixir. From the way he gritted his teeth, it could be seen that the elixir was of a high level. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1559. Sage Transformation Pill? This is the top-grade pill taken by quasi-sacred realm practitioners, which can greatly increase the speed of cultivation. It is said that even when promoted to the Holy Realm, it has a certain effect. Damn it, Haoshan Pavilion is indeed quite luxurious. There are such high-quality pills. Huazhong pill is a holy pill, and because of its special nature, 100,000 star core is not a problem. And there is still a price but no market. Yeah, the general holy medicine pills cost tens of thousands of star cores. Shouts came one after another, highlighting the true value of this elixir from the side. Fang Fan nodded slightly. 500,000 star cores plus a few holy pills, the price is almost the same. Ken. A wicked smile appeared on the corner of Fang Fan's mouth. He almost got 1,000,000 star cores. Although I don't know where the strangeness of this belief pool is, but it is related to the power of belief, and he is an expert. Hao Yun on the side opened his mouth. In fact, he wanted to remind his irascible third brother. He was almost sure that the 500,000 star cores plus a few saint transformation pills were basically meat buns. Gone forever. But after thinking about it, I chose to shut up. I wouldn't believe it anyway. If that's the case, there's no need to talk so much nonsense. It's unnecessary. Humph. The Temple of Faith is not a place for you to gamble. If you do this, where will you put the gods of light? It's just presumptuous. Duan Muding walked over in stride, speaking so righteously. Fang Fan curled his lips. Did you think of the gods of light when you instructed your cronies to openly ask for bribes? These double-standard parties are disgusting. Lord Duanmu's words are wrong. It's just a small fight between young people. There's no need to go online like this. On the contrary, I think it's good, and it can be regarded as a little bit more interesting. How about this bishop as your notary? Nan Gonglei, the red-clothed archbishop of the Temple of the Alliance of Light, strode over with a smile on his face. Humph. Just get used to him. Duan Muding turned his head to the side, and complained angrily. Now that he still has a reason to be caught by Nangonglei, he naturally has to keep a low profile. With a third-grade red-clothed archbishop like Nangonglei acting as a notary, this matter is considered a certainty. Hao Zhan, a young man in blue and red robe, is gearing up. His face is full of red light. He felt that his chance to rise and take off had come. He wants to use this Fang Fan as a stepping stone, step on it and take off directly. Don't the acting cardinal and the cardinal value this guy? Don't you think he is the pride of heaven? Then he will defeat this proud son of heaven with dignity. At that time, the applause and flowers will be his. Everything will be his. The blue-red-robed young man Hao Zhan thought in his heart. His eyes became sharper, his excited words were blocked in his throat, and he couldn't speak at all. He had already foreseen the victory coming towards him. He had already foreseen that these two big bosses of the temple would appreciate him greatly. He will make history. Unprecedented history. Third brother, you take it easy. Hall Master Fang Fan is not an ordinary person. Hao Yun sighed with emotion, but couldn't help reminding that this is all his own experience of blood and tears. But his third brother just didn't believe it. In vain? Whoa. Coward. Trash. He, a bastard is a bastard, with little knowledge. The young man in the blue-red robe let out a disdainful sound. Divine System of the Strongest Card Supplier in the End Times, Doomsday Strongest Card Supplier. Author, Shu Yu. Chapter 1560. Hao Yun shrugged and didn't say much, that's all. As for whether you believe it or not, what kind of attitude is it, that's beyond my control. Anyway, I have reminded everything that should be reminded, and it can be regarded as the best of this plastic brotherhood, and I can buy myself a peace of mind. Immediately, the doors of these small rooms in the Temple of Faith were opened, revealing the most authentic scene in it, where the power of faith that was about to condense into liquid circulated, giving people a visually shocking feeling. If you say that you have a certain amount of power of faith, that feeling is naturally very good, but if this power of faith is too strong, it will cause some problems. This is like oxygen, you can't do without it, but the concentration of oxygen is too high, it will make you suffocate and dizzy every minute. The faith level test begins. Invite the tester to enter the pool of faith. The exclusive person in charge of the Temple of Faith yelled, and then a group of practitioners who were arranged to be tested were displayed in front of the gates, stepping in one by one. Fang Fan strode over with a confident look on his face. Wandering in endless beliefs, the feeling is still very refreshing. I always feel that my whole body is soft, I want to immerse myself in it, I can't extricate myself. Entering the portal, Fang Fan closed the door casually. He has no habit of letting others watch like a monkey, this feeling is disgusting. As soon as he entered the pool of faith, Fang Fan could feel the strong power of faith rushing towards Fang Fan. This power of faith is the purest energy purified. It is said to be the power of faith, more precisely, it is pure energy. Taking a sip of the energy concentrated in it, Fang Fan felt his whole body trembling. The energy transformed by the power of faith is madly rushing towards my body. Yes. That's the feeling, the spiritual power in the body is suddenly tightened, it is being purified step by step. Is this a sudden increase in my cultivation? Fang Fan took a breath, feeling the strong energy rushing in from his nostrils. Fang Fan thought of this, his eyes became more and more excited. If this is the case, this pool of faith is a treasure of geomantic omen. Fang Fan wandered in it, only a sense of refreshment was condensed, as for that sense of hardship, it really doesn't exist. Cultivation is continuing. Time passed minute by minute, and in less than an hour, nearly half of the hundreds of portals had been opened. It came out within an hour. Obviously, he didn't even have the lowest level of belief. To put it bluntly, he was a false believer. He usually said that he was a high-sounding person, saying how much he believed in the gods of light, that's all nonsense. Take a little test here, and you will know whether Li Kuei or Li Gui is right away. Hey, I don't know if there will be a 6th level or even 7th level believer this time. Hee, the 6th level believer is nothing but the 6th level belief level. Although it is very high, it is not so rare, but the 7th level belief level, that can be called a devout believer, in the Temple of the Light Alliance among them, those archbishops in 3-pin red clothes even have this level of belief. The most promising one this time is actually Hao Zhan, the son of the master of the Haoshan Pavilion. It is said that when he was just born, he was blessed by the power of the gods of light. He is a guy with divinity, and his level will not be too low.